A big welcome to the Nick Elston Show, hosted by inspirational speaker and transformational speaking coach Nick Elston. This show brings you the people who inspire, motivate, educate, and engage in all walks of life, sharing their insights and experiences honestly, unfiltered, and off script. So, without further ado, let's get stuck into today's show.
Hey everyone, a big welcome back to the Nick Elston Show, season 4, episode 3 already, flying by. And we have an amazing guest and another gem that I've kind of picked up over lockdown and the pandemic, because it's not all been bad. It's through my work through initially Next Gen Planners. We were kind of introduced that way, done a lot of work in South Africa since, and also the keynote speaker for Financial Planning Institute conference late last year in South Africa as well. And it's my great pleasure to welcome to the show. We have Rizanne Oosthuisen. Is that correct?
You got it right.
Close enough. Look, people know they're going to get honesty from me. I really panic with pronunciations. I genuinely panic. So for me, when I first started working in South Africa, it was literally my nightmare, but only because of the pronunciations. I wasn't worried about presenting or meeting people. It was the pronunciations. So I hope I did you justice there. But Rizanne, please do tell us all about you.
Absolutely perfect. Thank you, Nick. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Good stuff. Well, it's a pleasure to have you along. And also thank you for donating your time. I know how busy you are. You do lots of things, and it's not just the financial planning space that you work in, as far as I know, but you do lots of work. So first of all, let's kick off with, tell us about you, who you are now, what you do now, and then maybe we can get to what you were about to get you to this point, if that's okay.
Okay, so I'm Rizanne. I'm from South Africa. I currently live in Johannesburg. And I am the founder of Profile Me. We mainly service the financial services market for the moment in South Africa, and looking outwards. I used to live in Cape Town for a very long time, until there was a bit of a life-changing event, and things really changed for me. And yeah, that's about it, I think.
Wow. Okay. So, so many kind of rabbit holes we can dive down there. Let's start with, if you're okay, to share some of those kind of life-changing experiences that got you to this point.
Yeah, I think part of those changes is actually why I kind of fell into where I am now. And I don't think that I would have been able to pick up and do what I do now if it wasn't for those things. So on the one hand, really hard to go through. On the other hand, I suppose incredible growth that came from that. Yeah, I was living in Cape Town. So I didn't grow up in a big city. I grew up in a boarding school, actually, in a small town. And straight after that, I went to the UK for a 2.5-year working holiday.
Oh, well, whereabouts were you in the UK? Where were you?
Well, it was mainly based in London.
Okay.
So yes, I did telesales. Learned quite a bit there on how the system is swung. Anyway, waitressing, being a housemaid. I did pretty much anything that somebody just out of school would do. And it was actually quite scary. You come from a small town, and I went on my own. And I had 3 days of accommodation booked and 50 quid in my pocket, and no work, and you just got to go and make it. So it was quite scary, actually, but it was hard. It wasn't all holiday, but it was really there's a lot of things and lessons learned from there. And I'm glad I took that break, because if I didn't take that break, I probably would have settled for a different tertiary school than what I went to, when I came back, I had the confidence to apply for this super elite advertising school. And I mean, I just applied and I gave it my best shot and I got in. They only take a couple of candidates. And I got in. Before, I wouldn't have had that confidence, I think. So, and I applied in Cape Town. So that's how I ended up, in Cape Town, studied there. I then entered the advertising industry in Cape Town and worked in that for quite a bit, on really big brands, which gave me a very good grounding. And I think also what we worked on, and the type of mentor I had in design. I come traditionally from a design and branding background. That's just really set me up for where I was gonna go creatively and how I was gonna think creatively. And I think I was with the advertising industry for quite a while, and then I picked up some bigger clients, and I started going into bigger projects, and I ended up going on my own, starting freelancing and setting up my own agency, and that went really great. It went well until I was working on a really, really big project for a hair care product, and I will never ever forget this, tying into mental health and well-being. The first time that I really started to struggle, I think with how comfortable I feel within the corporate or within a bigger decision-making environment. We were sitting around a boardroom table, and I essentially was the client on behalf of the, representative on behalf of the client, and we were sitting with a tech firm. And we've been having problems with them setting up this certain thing that we needed to run a loyalty program. And we're sitting around the table, and it wasn't supposed to be a big meeting. So I walk in there, and all of a sudden there's about 10 people around the boardroom table. I didn't expect that. And I'm the youngest by about 10 years from everybody, and I'm the only female. So I walk in there, and I'm trying to explain the problem, and I start to really struggle. And it's the weirdest thing. I think what happened there is that was the first time I kind of had a bit of a panic attack. What I understand now is actually pre-onset panic. You're panicking about panicking, something like that.
Yeah.
And that really turned the tables for me. The experience was so intense. And funnily enough, what I experienced is probably not what the people around me saw. But the experience was so intense that from there on, I was incredibly conscious about, social anxiety became a real thing for me. I think I didn't start to enjoy my work as much. Sitting across a table with somebody, just having a conversation was really, really difficult. I think the anxiety at some point got to such a point where I would consciously before make a plan that, okay, so I know I can't order a coffee because I can't hold the cup. I can't order a water, so I'll always have a water bottle in my handbag or something like that, and you're trying to operate around that. But trying to operate around that, you're not really enjoying your job. You're surviving. You're in constant fight and flight mode. That contract ended, and I ended up starting a new business, which was based on a completely different model. And, and it ended up being quite successful. And it was quite a nice model. We had about 5 women working. I had about 5 women working in that. I was in career branding services. It was going really, really well. I mean, there was absolutely no complaints there. And what happened then, like something, life-changing event happened, and for a complete unforeseeable reason, my circumstances changed completely. I ended up in the end having to let all of the stuff go. And I also ended up losing absolutely everything, from my house, from my dogs, to having to pack up out of Cape Town that I loved and moving up to Johannesburg, where I have family, and completely starting over. So I suppose that's that little bit that went before, where I came from. And I think there was a process that happened after, when something like that happens to you and you find the reasons for it quite unreasonable, you obviously, the first place you look is outwards. You're angry, you're blaming this, you're blaming that, you're doing all kinds of things, you're not liking where you are now, you're uncomfortable, it's you're generally in a really, really bad space. You also now don't have all the autonomy you had, you don't have the success that you had, you don't have the freedom, you don't have the money. There's lots of things that goes with it, and I think also a part of it is an incredible failure and just shame and disappointment that goes with that. So I think it was such a big thing that happened that I really, really struggled for a bit. I remember the advocate saying to me, just take a sabbatical. I was like, sabbatical? I mean, what are you talking about? I can't just take a sabbatical. And I fought hard, but in the end, that's exactly what ended up happening, and I had to do. I should have listened to him from the beginning. Anyway, so I did take a little bit of time just to recoup, and in that time, I think it was really wonderful. And what was really wonderful about it was that I was somehow able to overcome a lot of things that actually caused the anxiety. I think I grew up really, really difficult, which I think translated into some things in later life. And in that time, I'm so grateful for that time. And I actually often, when things get tough, I actually often think back to that time, and I think about the things that I did. And it's some of those things are things that I often go back to when I do struggle. And that time I would just walk. I remember just walking. I would some days I would walk about 10 Ks, and I'll have the earphones in. At that time, I had discovered, all these wonderful motivational YouTube things and all of those, and someone's got like this awesome music going, and like I'm listening to this thing, and this guy is like, giving it to you really hard, like the hard truth and getting serious, and like, look into yourself, like stop blaming others, the usual suspects that give these motivational things. I just remember like sometimes getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and just can't wait for the sun to come up, because I need to get out. I need to do this walk. And in that, I just really, really battled with, let me rephrase, I did battle. I did battle with like the people and the circumstances and all of those things. When you come up until a point at some day, and it may be different for everybody, but there comes a day when you start to be able you start to have nothing to blame others for, no excuses. And you're starting to having to look inwards. And that looking inwards, I think, is where the real progress come, because you end up, you put all of the external, you put it aside, and that's when you start doing battle with yourself. And that's when you start processing all of these things. If you had a rough childhood, that's when you start processing like really understanding what happened, how it impacted you, and what kind of decisions that you made because of that. It's a lot of forgiveness that I think that happens there as well, towards yourself, towards others. But that internal battle, and that's why it ended up sometimes being 10Ks a day, is because it was a big battle that I was doing. But from that, I can't remember the exact day. There was such a wonderful route that I used to take, but one day, from that, something just clicked for me. Before that, you're in this mode where, I'm unemployable. I'm not good enough. I'm this, I'm that. I'm discarded, whatever it is that you feel. And then going through that, doing battles with yourself, and then just coming to a point to go like, when everything else has fallen away, all of the scales have fallen away, all of the niceties of life, and you've been through the most incredibly humbling experience, it just falls away, and you just clicks, and it's just an aha moment, and you know what? I'm actually okay. I'm okay with this. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with me. And then I just had this absolute fire to start upskilling, because before that, running the business that I lost, I'd been out of the design industry for about 6 years, so I was a little bit behind. And there was no way that I could get a job in design unless I'd, or in an agency, unless I'd upskilled, which I hadn't done because I didn't know how. And I can't even think, what kind of blanket kind of came over me there, because that's not the truth, that everything's at our fingertips, it's available. So then I just had this passion to learn, and to just learn as much as I can. And from there, I started upskilling completely, from digital to web to absolutely getting myself back up there in design. I've always been a strong designer, so I was glad to find out that that's still there. And the creativity and the creative thinking is still there. And in fact, because of this enormous experience, it's actually just made it stronger, which is really, really cool. I started upskilling, and that is not too long ago. It's about 7 years ago. That's about 7 years ago that the whole big conundrum happened. But how does your queen say, "Anus horribilis," happened? So there, I started upskilling. I started picking up a few clients. And with each one, you get a little bit more confident, and you push the boundaries further. Until I was able to just get onto my own feet, and from there it was just exponential. And now I'm talking only about 4 years ago, about 4.5 years ago, where I was really able to get back into the workforce, and really able to set up my own business, or going with confidence. And then obviously there's a couple of things that happened that landed me in the financial industry, which is quite interesting. But yeah, that is how I got there, with a lot of hard work and clawing your way back up, I suppose.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you know what, really, I actually felt quite emotional when you were talking about that, because that really resonates, and I know that I resonate with a lot of people that have been through that experience. But hearing from somebody who's have come out, but also coming out the other side, it's continual progression, isn't it? We both know, to do the things that you're doing, and to be able to not necessarily address, but come to peace with what's gone before. That's tough, isn't it? I think that there's a couple of telltale signs for me when I know I'm not in a good place again. That one of them is sensitivity. I will feel like the world's happening at me, and the second one is rumination, and I will get stuck in that loop of constantly replaying what's gone before. And that's a really tough one to break. And I like the way that you've done that. Like you said, it's kind of like peeling off those layers until all that's left is you. And there's that acceptance piece then, isn't there?
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, I've got a very, very soft spot, and especially for young people, where they've not yet been through enough to realize that, you know, where I'm at now and where I come from, that is not my story. That does not define me, and it doesn't have to define the course that my life is going to take. You come from a rough childhood, whatever, you know, that is not your narrative. Sometimes, you know, I love stories. I absolutely love books, and I love a good movie. You know, I love getting lost in those things. And I often think about it that, you know, we see the actor and we see the frame and we see what's going on there. But, you know, that character has shot a lot of other scenes that we don't know of. And there's a lot of narrative going on there, but we only know about that. And I mean, for ourselves as well, we only look at that little box that is the story that we keep playing for ourselves, our little movie, forgetting about all of the rest. I mean, there is no reason why you can't go off and, you know, have a completely rewrite your narrative. You know, chuck that out. That's season 1. Get over it. You're going on to season 2.
I like that. So, I mean, if you find is rumination a challenge for you? A lot of people I spoke to that have been through big life-changing events have some challenges around rumination or judgment, like you said. So you constantly feel like you're either being judged or even worse, you're judging yourself constantly as well. Is that a challenge for you? And if so, how do you navigate that when you're in that time?
I would say to a degree, yes. I do find myself thinking about that. You can't not. Sometimes you do have, if only, you know, sometimes you compare yourself to other people that came from different places, and you think, well, if only, you know, I had that kind of grounding. I wonder how I would, you know, I could have been there. But the problem is, maybe you would have been here because you've never had to jump higher. You know, there's that analogy. If you put fleas in I can't remember who said that, but somebody very famous. You put fleas in a glass jar. You know, they're gonna jump until they hit the top, or with a lid, they're gonna jump until they hit the top. You know, and after a while, they're just gonna jump halfway because they know they can't go further. You know, and you open that, they're probably not gonna jump out. They're just gonna stick where they are. And it's kind of that scenario where if sometimes it's a blessing to have incredible challenges that you have to overcome, because and I do find a lot of the people that I work with really well and that I have a good rapport with are people that has had a story, that has had to face something significant, overcome it, and you know, some of them talk about it. This is the very first time that I've spoken, you know, about it in my professional life. So yeah, it's a bit nervous, but yeah, I think it does need to be spoken about, because I think for young people that they need to know that wherever you are at, whatever circumstances you're from, that's not your story, and that's not what's going to define you. And I think especially for women, I'm very passionate about young girls. It's very easy for them to get boxed in and get defined in a certain place, and it's important that you know, us as industries and professionals, especially, you know, giving those girls that are struggling, giving them a grounding to say that doesn't have to be your story. This is where you can go.
Absolutely. Well, firstly, I want to say thank you for sharing that. Like, genuinely, it means a lot, and I know it's going to mean a lot to people that's tuning into this, because as I said before we hit record, it's a really kind of diverse audience, and you're going to reach people at different stages of their lives, both in terms of age and status and position and challenge and everything else. So thank you. And I genuinely feel that vulnerability is the one thing that we really connect with, that you're showing us your true self, and people will really connect with that.
This show is sponsored by Forging People, Transformational Speaking Coaching. Are you truly being heard in life, in business, in education, even at home? Your ability to deliver any message with clarity, power, and emotion will have an ultimately defining impact on your success as a speaker, leader, and influencer. For more information, contact team@forgingpeople.com. Are you truly being heard? It's time to find your voice.
You also mentioned about gender there, which I think is a really important point, especially in, like you said, in business. It's kind of been a traditional kind of male-dominated area, especially at the, like you said, boardroom level. When you had your event in that boardroom, when you had that experience in the boardroom, a contributing factor must have been actually that you were the only female and 10 years younger than everybody else in the room. So actually you kind of had to, the pressure was 10 times what it would have been for anybody else in that room. Do you feel that that's valid? Am I right to say that it was kind of more, it kind of ramped up, it amplified the pressure on you?
Yes, I would say, I was a lot younger then, and I haven't. There are some certain life skills I hadn't learned yet by then, and I think for me, I felt completely intimidated. Being a male-dominated environment, and if I look at like some of the factors that contributed to my childhood, that was probably the trigger. I felt a little bit blindsided, and then I was like, I'm going to do something wrong, or whatever, that trigger was. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I was definitely intimidated. I think having had some more life skills and some more experiences, for me now, it wouldn't be, we're all just people. We're all just people trying to get something done. But at that stage of my life, I was still carrying some of that narrative.
Yeah. Now
I was carrying that into the boardroom. That's also one thing I would say, that if you've got some stuff from there, get it dealt with prior, because it does affect the way that you react. And the way that you feel. I mean, the fight and flight is a thing you can't control. So get a handle on that. Understand where do you come from, and where does it fit into your, what is important for you, and what do you take from it, and what do you leave? Because there are a lot of things you can take from it. There's a lot of.
You mentioned a progression, you mentioned your journey through self-development. And again, that's something that really resonates, that it's not one thing that's really helped. There's been lots of different things that we pick up along the way, including experience, has to be said. In terms of professional help, was that in place at the time for you to reach out to when you needed it? Or was it something that you kind of waded through yourself?
No, I would say that there was professional help available. But at the time when I had that really huge event, of moving cities, there's no professional help. There's nothing. You can't afford it. And I actually, that's the best thing of all. I had to be my own. I had to save myself. I think it's very easy to often, I'm going to go there and I'm going to do that and it's going to get fixed. Instead of, I'm going to go here, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get myself fixed. So I do think the taking accountability and taking responsibility is a big part of overcoming something. we cannot control the things that happen to us. I saw a good thing the other day. It was saying, yesterday is not your problem. It's done. How you respond tomorrow
Yeah, absolutely.
is your problem. So if you're stressing right now about yesterday, you're focusing on the wrong problem. You've got to look at how you're going to react to that problem tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. So that leads me kind of to kind of present day. You are the CEO and founder of Profile Me. I like the link, whether it's probably subconsciously or consciously, between that kind of the storytelling and branding, that it's plain to see how storytelling has helped you to kind of reshape yourself personally. Is that something you kind of bring into your work and helping clients with as well, as defining what their story is, even in a professional context?
I think to a degree, yes, because there's a lot of, in understanding the world around me, and there's a lot of observation that happens. So you're constantly observing things, but also with that, on my strengths list, empathy is my number 2 highest, strongest skill set. I've got an incredible high level of empathy. So that means, putting yourself in other people's shoes and going through all these life experiences, I think it just helps you to put yourself in people's shoes a lot better. And coming into the professional career, I definitely think that that's helped. And I definitely think that's helped me creatively as well, coming up with new innovative ways to present, to convey information, because information is part you are saying something and you think you're saying this, and somebody else needs to hear it. But, what are they hearing from what you are saying? And what do you think they're hearing from, what you're saying? So the job really that I do is finding the middle medium and marrying the two, where you're still you, and the message that you're putting out there is completely 100% authentic, and it resonates with the audience of your choice, but also that the audience is hearing what you're saying in the correct manner. Because you must remember, audiences are completely overloaded. And so it takes a little bit of tweaking to make sure that they get there. But also just, apart from that, Profile Me, the branding, designs, strategy work, etc., that I do, that's just one part. Profile Me itself, I think is one. And that's my biggest baby, and where most of my time goes, and my biggest passion. That also, that was just, when I started upskilling, I got a client that was in the financial service industry, was opening a financial planning practice, quite a large one. And I was doing all of the branding and all of the client communication, setting up all kinds of tools. And coming from a consumer point of view into this very rigid stuff, and this is just pre-pandemic, I looked at this but why do you do it like that? Because I'm a consumer, and I know I don't like that. I'm pretty sure other people don't like that. So why are you doing it like that? And it was really cool because it was a new practice, and we could innovate. We could set up new things, really cool things that clients would appreciate, that would bring the planner and the client a lot closer. And because it is about relationships, you can have lots of things, but you have to have things that facilitate the relationship. And some of those crazy things that we started in the beginning with, they're still in play today, and they're still part of the fundamental process of how you deal with the client from start to end, which is really cool. But out of that, the idea for Profile Me was actually born. When I thought, hey, but why don't we do it this way? I was shown something, I looked at it, I'm like, no, but let's do it. Why can't we do it this way? And that's where I went and built a prototype. I showed it to a few people, and they were like, how soon can we have it? I was going to make sure. But going into Profile Me, I think that's a race of its own, because I was going to have to make a lot of sacrifices to do it. It was going to consume time. It was going to consume money. It was going to be all consuming. But going through what I've gone through at that point in my life, I was like, I'm going to do it. If I lose 2 more years, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I can afford it right now, because I've got nothing, and I've got nothing to lose. Yeah. So you can afford it, right?
That's a Monty Python line, isn't it? You come from nothing, you're going back to nothing. What have you lost? Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think internally, I mean, I had to think it through really, really well. Because of the enormous mental, emotional and financial sacrifices that I was going to make in there, and yeah, I think it was just, it's the best decision I've ever made. I remember, when I was battling with the decision, should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? Because now you're starting a tech product that first of all, it's not in the country. You have to first educate, release. You've got to deal with all the pushback, which there can be very many. It's like the snowman pushing the snowball. It's a hard push until it starts gaining traction by its own. So it was going to be that period, and did I have the stamina for it? So I think, when I was still talking this over with somebody really close, they said, some people, I will never forget this. Some people spend their whole lives looking for the big idea. You've got a big idea. You're like the dog chasing the car. So, the dog chases the car, he gets the car, and then he doesn't know what to do with it. You got that now. What are you doing next? That played over my mind so much. And I think, and then I just, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go for it, and I'm gonna absolutely give it absolutely everything I have. And I did. So it's been a wild ride up until now. But it's I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. The people that you meet, the growth, the pain, the blood, sweat, and tears, highs, lows. It's been really, really incredible. I've been really privileged to meet really amazing people, and have really amazing people champion you. And at the same time, when you get to a certain level in the journey, you realize not everybody wants to champion you, and then you've got to get into that mind space again of, where am I spending my mind space? This is the reality. There's nothing I can do about it, but I can focus where I put my energy.
Do you find with your mentioning energy, do you find with your empathic nature that you have to work hard to make sure that you maintain good energy?
Yes, I would say that. I think I can take things very personally, and just coming in, as an entrepreneur and a business owner, initially I took things very, very personally, and it does take practice to start, separating, business from who I am and who my professional career is and what my business is. It does take some practice to do that. And for me, the best way to have done that is actually just to shut up, keep quiet, and watch and learn, observe, see how other people do it. You don't have to ask a million questions, or but you can watch and learn from every single person and every single interaction that you're in, to give you a better grounding. And you get to a stage where you then start to feel comfortable with yourself and find your own style. I think I did the Gallup Clifton Strengths Finder, and I will never forget this wonderful, wonderful person that sat me down, and he said to me, okay, Rizanne, so these are your top 5 strengths, right? So you've got strategy first and then empathy second. Now, so he takes me through some of the negatives, but at the end, he put it so well together. He said to me, this is how you were born. This is how you were made. Make peace with it. You cannot be any other way. If you're going to try and do anything, whether you try and organize a park run or a local charity event or run an admin, do anything, if you're not going to focus on your top 5 strengths, you're going to be miserable. Doesn't matter what you do. And at that time, coming into really, I mean, we work with big corporates now, but getting into the corporate space, it's not a space that I come from. I don't know all the etiquette, and it feels like there's some unspoken rules that I have. I'm 15 years behind on that, and I had to catch up really, really quickly. So you have that imposter syndrome thing. You've got like the whole mixed bag of things going. And I think, just that in the beginning, I was really self-conscious about the fact that I've got such high empathy levels, because I know that, your big decision makers, empathy is the least on the scale. You can't have that affect your decisions. I sat down with an IBM exec once just for some advice, etc. And he looked at my results and said, you can never be a CEO. Anyway, yeah, I'm too empathetic. So then, I am a CEO now.
But great 2 fingers moment, isn't it? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The jokes aside, apart from that is I did have to find my own style in there. And, I was, when that wonderful person sat me down, he said, look at your strengths, look at how these things tie into that, relationship building, you're strong in that, use that. And I think for the first bit, I was quite stiff and uncomfortable in the corporate environment. And I didn't always feel like I was being myself, or that I was, that I was being authentic at all, and I felt quite uncomfortable, and I don't think I was able always to express myself well enough to get my ideas across. And then, as I got more comfortable, I started just talking the way I talk and talking to people the way I would make jokes, and I can get very familiar with people, and I absolutely love all of our clients, over 1,000, whatever. I love each one of them. Like if they call me, I will take the time and have a chat and go into things with them. But that is my style. That is who I am. I don't sit behind a big sort of glass desk and all of that. I'm in the grind, and I'm in the trenches, and I'm there with everybody, working it. And if they're having a hard time, I'm there. I'm like there to help or whatever, and with our team that's growing as well. It's been really, really incredible, because I love getting my hands dirty and, being in there with them. Yeah, absolutely. Love this. I love what you do. I think it's such a great vibe, and I think this certainly does go through the business and through the profile, and genuinely what you see is what you get, and I love that about people. Genuine. Okay, away from everything else, what do you love to do in your own time, in your downtime? What kind of hobbies you got? Do you play sports or pastimes or?
Okay, so downtime.
Do you have any downtime? That's another important question.
Yeah. So downtime is something I don't get to have often. But
daily things like
but when I do, I love reading. So I cannot go to bed if I have not read. And I read. I've just finished Clara and the Sun. Love those type of books. That is about life lessons and life journeys and
what's
those
the
kind
book
of.
title?
Clara and the Sun. Yeah, so yeah, and it's actually quite good. It talks about human nature and etc. So I like reading. I do like watching a good Netflix show. I do tend to be on the soppy scale of Netflix.
What have you been watching recently?
Actually, that wasn't so soppy. That would have been Manifest.
Okay.
About those passengers going missing, but they were fighting the good fight, so I was totally in there with them.
In the trenches with them again. So there's a theme.
Yeah.
And
I don't get
I love to ask everybody that comes on the show is, I want to set the scene. I'm now the MC of the O2 Arena in London. 20,000 people have paid our hard-earned money to come and hear you do your thing. You're kicking back in the green room with your feet up on the table, and you hear your walk-on music kick in as I introduce you. That song that motivates you, that lifts you, that gets you at peak state, that you're going to walk onto that stage and deliver. That song would be...
It'll have to be I Lived, One Republic.
Tune. Good shout. And that choice, amazing choice, will be on the playlist available at the end of season 4. So stay tuned for that. But for now, Rizanne, thank you so much for being on the show. What an amazing guest. Really, really enjoyed today's episode. And I hope everybody else did too. I'm sure you did. Any parting words of wisdom for us?
Yeah, no, I would just say, and especially to young people and young girls out there, don't let wherever you come from define you. There's a whole world out there for you, and there's an incredible whole world of people out there ready to help you, to mentor you or whatever. There are people there. There are good people there. So just believe in yourself. Write your own story. Go out and get them.
What an amazing note to finish on. Big round of applause for Rizanne. Woohoo! Thank you so much. And for everybody else, please stay tuned, hit like and subscribe and everything else. Please do connect with Rizanne. Her details are in the bio. Strongly suggest you connect. I'm sure she'll be really happy to hear from you as well. And stay tuned for next Monday's episode. We have an amazing guy called Dan Skirmer. Dan is the founder of the PA Forum here in the UK. He also is a dancer on Strictly Come Dancing, which is really, really cool. And we're going to be talking about lots of different things, really exciting episodes. So please stay tuned for that. In the meantime, take care, be well, and keep happy. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Do hit the like button and subscribe to stay tuned for future episodes. Published every Monday and available through YouTube or the podcast platform of your choice. See you next week.